A very warm welcome to the program, and thank you for choosing Smart 24 TV. We drive your business. My name is Anthony, and this is The Point. Now, we're back with the Uganda Revenue Authority once again, and today we discuss another very important aspect of the Uganda Revenue Authority, and that is the tax obligations and the rights you have as a taxpayer. Now, the Uganda Revenue Authority is the body mandated under the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development to, first of all, be able to collect taxes, secondly, to regulate the collection of taxes, and then advise government on different tax policies. However, there are quite a number of products and services that the Uganda Revenue Authority has to offer. There are quite a number of taxes as well that they levy, depending on the kind of tax bracket under which you are as a taxpayer. Every time we pay taxes, we get to help the country move forward in as far as, of course, extending services, extending infrastructure throughout the country. However, as we do this, some people don't understand, especially why they pay certain taxes. They don't understand their tax obligations, but they also don't know their rights as taxpayers. And that's exactly what we are discussing today. Joining me on set is none other than Mr. Masembe once again, who is a tax education expert from the Uganda Revenue Authority. You're most welcome back to the show, Mr. Masembe.
Thank you very much for hosting me today once again. And I'm glad to join our viewers in this discussion today on the obligations and the rights of taxpayers. Yeah. Greetings from the Uganda Revenue Authority. We want to once again share on the expectations that we have, what is actually ahead of us as Ugandans, because we know the obligations for taxes are shared. On the URA side, we do our role of supporting you to meet the obligations. On the taxpayer side, we expect that you will come through. We have other people along the chain, the intermediaries. We have lawyers, accountants. We have many people in there. We have the judiciary. We have the tax appeals tribunal who help us to adjudicate and to guide and settle cases. The tax agents to assist our taxpayers, those who do not have the time or maybe the knowledge to meet the obligations, and so many. So it's a shared role. I mean, it is shared in the way we approach it on our part as administrators, on their part as taxpayers, on their role as intermediaries, and many other players in the ecosystem of the tax regime. Yes.
So, Mr. Masembe, if you could share with us, when you talk about URA, I wouldn't expect products, but of course that's what you portray. URA products and services. What do you term as URA products? Because the services are, at least we clearly know, your mandate is to collect taxes. But then when you talk about the products, what are some of those things that URA has to offer for the taxpayer?
Thank you. So we all appreciate that tax is law. I mean, that is the basic thing. Tax is law. But then the complexity of the law does not have to be served to the taxpayer in its full complexity. And so as a tax administration, when you are charged with the role of administering or serving, giving the service of to taxpayers on how they are supposed to fulfill these obligations, you're expected to design processes, systems, staff your institution with skilled people to be able to assist taxpayers across these various tax heads that they are expected to pay. So, as a tax administrator, what are we tasked to do? One, there are tax heads. Okay, there are tax heads that you are expected to meet, and you are expected to meet them how? And so we design systems for registration. So the Uganda Revenue Authority will put in place systems for registration, and that is a service. We offer registration services for people to register and get a tax identification number. That is work that we do. We can't do it for you if you visit our offices, but you can easily do this when you use your phone and you apply for an instant TIN application, the tax identification number. And then we have people who may have access to the online applications, but then they are not able to use the system for instant application. And so those who have the two identification documents, maybe a passport, a driver's permit, your work ID, or your NSSF card, your village ID. We have persons who are in Uganda because the circumstances in their home countries are not good. I hope you're aware that Uganda is one of the refugee host nations in the world with the biggest number. And so we have refugees who are actually in Uganda. And so you give us your refugee ID, and we are able to register you if we can tie it along with another ID document. So we offer you registration services, but even then, after registration, we enable you to update your registration details. Your email address could have changed, your phone number could have changed, your address could have changed, the tax heads to which you're subscribing could change. And so we give you these services, and you are able to transact in whichever form you please, to import or export something, to get into manufacturing, or to get into wholesale and retail, or any other form of business. So registration is one of the core services that we give our people, to the extent that at the point you cease to exist in business or to earn income, or to where you cease to be in the set of circumstances that require you to subscribe to that form of registration, you can even deactivate. So the registration service is broad, but it is the starting point to the many other services that we give, because URA services are received across your registration number, which is the tax identification number. Then we have the services of declarations. When you make declarations to the Uganda Revenue Authority, which we call tax returns. Okay, we have tax returns. We've been talking about these before. Tax returns are declarations that you make to the URA, and the current dispensation in which we operate is in such a set that you make your own declaration. So Anthony, you will come to the URA, you visit the URA website, and you declare how much you earn, how much you expensed, how much you invested in terms of the capital investment in your business. So tax returns and declarations, these declarations can also be in form of what you're bringing into the country or what you're taking out of the country. These are at times called customs declarations. So those declarations are important to the URA. They could be for the month, for the quarter, for the half year, for the end of year, or they could be business information returns. But the bottom line is you're making a declaration to the URA, and we receive that. We support payments. People who are making payments to the URA, you could use, we give you services and platforms. You could use your phone, *285#. You just click *285# on your phone, press those digits, and you will be faced with a wide menu of the URA services, from payments to declarations of simple taxes like presumptive. You will make the payment, and all is done in a short while, and everything is done. Tax refunds. Okay, some Ugandans are applying for refunds in cases of taxes that were paid but they ought not have been paid, or taxes that were paid in excess
Yeah, I've had a conversation here before
Yes.
on input VAT and output VAT and how that can come up as a refund if at all someone, you know, depending on the vertible and non-vertible goods that someone has.
Yes.
So the actual refunds.
There are actual tax refunds that we give to people, because it does no service for us as the tax body to keep one's monies, yet they could recoup these monies into their business, make a more a higher turnover at the end of the year, and pay better or higher income tax. So tax refunds are there. Appeals and objections. One may be dissatisfied with the URA decision. It could be a declaration decision, it could be a registration decision, it could be a payment decision, any decision that the URA may make, and you're not satisfied with it. You can object to such a decision, whether as a fact or as an interpretation of the law. Okay? So whichever way you feel aggrieved or dissatisfied with the decision that the URA has made, you can make an objection to the URA via our website, or you can visit our offices, or you can go to the Tax Appeals Tribunal, depending on the nature, or the courts in the land. And you will get justice, because I have seen people get justice. Some cases go the URA way, some cases don't go the URA way, they go the taxpayer's way. But the bottom line is that we need to show fairness, and we need to exhibit it in the way taxpayers interact with us and in the way they experience our services. And if we have that, then we can comfortably say that we have a fair regime which is equitable and just to all the payers.
How are tax-paying services, or tax collection services rather, of FAD? In particular, you last time mentioned about the URA TV, where you're trying to reach out to the public on how they can be able to pay, you know, for their taxes and also file returns. But what are some of the other ways that these services reach down to the local person or to the common person in the village, someone who is not in Kampala, who can't come to the URA tower? How are you trying to reach your services to such people?
Yes, we've appreciated that, and from service surveys that we've had, we have many Ugandans saying, I still feel comfortable, or most Ugandans are actually saying, I am most comfortable visiting a URA office and engaging with a URA officer to have that physical interaction, to understand and ask all the questions that I would like to have. So it is why we have, and that is the main reason we've maintained our brick and mortar offices, because most people will want to enter a URA office and ask a question or ask for a particular service. But that is, while we are doing that, it is running parallel to our automation of services and our expectation that clients can now freely and comfortably, it is 8 p.m. You can register a payment and make that payment actually to the URA. Right now, 8 p.m., while other URA offices may be closed, you can file a declaration. You can amend your registration details with URA right now on your computer, on your phone, and on those other platforms that we have created to make this service available to you 24/7, 7 days the week and the whole year through, as long as you have internet. So we have created these platforms for brick and mortar physical experience, but we have also made these available virtually on our digital platforms. But then, Anthony, the other thing is our appreciation that we may not have the footprint physical to be everywhere. Uganda is a very big country. And so you may not be in Koboko, in Moyo, in Nebi, everywhere. Anyway, the places I mentioned, we have physical offices. I mean, we have presence there. But now you will look at particular locations and you're not able to have physical offices in those areas. So what do? We have mobile office units. So far too. And we draw a calendar for our appearance in particular places in the country. So we know that these physical offices, when we drive this Tujenge bus, we call it a Tujenge bus, because we think it is going to motivate us more to build this country, Uganda. Now, when we drive a bus into your area, it is like the URA office has actually visited.
The URA tower now is in that.
It is in your locality for that particular week when we are with you. And so we drive it in. It has all the digital, all the physical URA service offers, and we support all the residents, all the taxpayers, potential and existing, with all their tax obligations, be it registration, for declarations, that is filing returns, making payments, submitting your appeals for, and even refund applications, everything. We'll do it. So we extend this. And then the biggest of the services that the URA offers, I mean, payments are there, registrations are there, but what we are putting very, very much on the forefront is information dissemination. Because where people do not understand the tax they pay, you may not expect them to actually fulfill their obligations fully, because they don't know. So they will act out of ignorance. They will even try to smuggle into the country things that do not attract tax. Okay, as in they are trying so much to smuggle and bring in things, yet actually there would be no tax on such items. So ignorance is a very, very bad kind of scenario that we have. But through pushing information, through creating awareness, dissemination, we hope it will help us to get that appreciation of the service offer that we have as the URA, and then it will also make our clients aware of what the offer that we have for them, so they can take advantage of it. So that is, in brief, the breadth of the service offer that we have, alongside many other things that the time that we have on this show may not permit us to elaborate on.
No.
Yes.
Now, as we just wind down this session, when you talk about reaching out, especially to the populations that are in the local areas, you've also reached out using the IFRI system. We've talked about the IFRI system before, but just to give our viewer a very clear picture, where and how does the IFRI system come into play when it comes to especially the day-to-day operations of running a business, especially in as far as compliance to Uganda Revenue Authority is concerned?
Some time back, we had a business forum at one of the big hotels in town. And during the forum, a lady stood up and she waved a booklet up in the air as she was making her point. And what she was asking URA is, how do you expect us to believe that you are fair to us as a taxman when you are collecting and making assessments on our businesses without any foundation document? The lady asked and really implored URA to cultivate the culture of record keeping among business players in the country. Record keeping. I mean, whereas it may not be with the direct connection to tax, the guidance the lady was giving was, if you just make this right, the entire journey going forward will be smooth for the tax administration, and not only for the tax administration, but also for the business operators. So at that particular time, we picked up and started a program on financial literacy. And one of the core things inside the curriculum for financial literacy was business record keeping. Now, record keeping, and at the time, we even published a simplified guide, and we even issued booklets on record keeping. We were giving business operators booklets that they would use to record business transactions. Now, fast forward, as technology and advancement kick in, the institution, the Uganda Revenue Authority, government, and the national strategy for the collection of revenue instituted and put in place a more sophisticated and comprehensive mechanism of keeping records, which is the electronic fiscal receipting and invoicing solution. The purpose of this electronic fiscal receipting and invoicing solution is, among others, to assist business operators to keep track of their incomes and expenditures, of their purchases and their sales, of their expenses, you get it?
Yeah.
And what they are getting in. That is the sole purpose of the electronic fiscal receipting and invoicing solution. It is an automated system that users can use on their desktop computers, on their laptops, on their some on their phone, to keep record of what you are selling and what you are buying. Now, in the initial implementation, the IFRS system has been designated to persons who are registered for value-added tax. Reason being that value-added tax involves you claiming tax from the Uganda Revenue Authority, meaning there must be a record for the tax that you are claiming for. And the same value-added tax involves the URA asking you to pay tax to it, tax that you are expected to have collected from your customers. So still, there should be a record of the transaction on your sales and a record on the transaction of your purchases or expenses. So in both ends, the introduction of the electronic fiscal and receipting and invoicing solution was to assist in the streamlining of documents relating to purchases and sales for proper accountability. It is not fair, Anthony, for the URA to expect you to pay tax when there is no foundation document for the transactions on which it wants tax from you. And that is the purpose.
And at the end of the day, we were talking about filing tax returns.
Yes.
Which these documents can be of reference.
Basis, yes.
To get those tax returns.
Indeed.
Amazing.
Indeed.
We're going to take a very short break, Mr. Masembe. When we return, before we go into the tax obligations and rights that the taxpayer has, we want to talk about the different forms or types of taxes. There's been a contestation, especially, for example, from the withholding tax. The Chikubo traders in Chikubo, Ham Enterprises, St. Valley Kudembe, or Wino Market, have come up and said the 6% tax, the withholding tax, is not something they don't understand because they feel like they're paying it elsewhere, as we shall get to explain. But we want to get to know some of these taxes because, like you said, ignorance is one of the few things that affect the taxpayer. If someone doesn't understand why they're paying a certain tax, they'll be non-compliant sometimes. So we want to get into those different types of taxes and also who pays those taxes. And then later on, we look at the obligations and rights that the taxpayer has. We take a very short break and we return shortly. Dear viewers, my name is Anthony and this is The Point. Stay with us.
Smart 24, driving business.
And in talking news, MTN has improved on their data voice bundles. You can now call across all networks for the same price. We've talked to several eyewitnesses on the ground, and this is what one of them had to say.
Amos, did you hear about the MTN daily voice bundles?
So, To join many more other Ugandans enjoying these MTN daily voice bundles, dial *100 *21# or use the My MTN app to start enjoying. Hey, stay tuned for more offers from MTN.
Luxury redefined at Seasand Hotel as you indulge in the splendor of elegant living fit for the royalty that you are. Step into comfort, pampering and blissful customer-centric service as you select from our range of comfy, exquisite living quarters furnished to meet with your royal preference. Surrounded by scenic beauty, our tropical setting allows you to escape the glamorous ordeal of city life. Our ambient green gardens will guide you to a place of revitalizing rest. The 3-star restaurant caters to your palate, serving your choice menu ranging from exotic cuisines to local delicacies. Our chefs will serve you full-course meals for a truly out-of-this-world culinary experience. Our fully stocked bar to whet your throat, from renowned global brand whisks, brandies, gins, beers and wines to our locally celebrated beverages, you will not lack for any brewage. It's an all-new experience in the East at Seasand Hotel, so visit today at plot 15 to 19 Spire Road, Ginger, or contact us on +256 751 719 960 and +256 785 354 614 for reservations. Seasand Hotels, luxury redefined.
Say goodbye to paperwork and travel costs. Now every MTN customer can register to invest in securities anytime and anywhere with Zabu in a few simple steps. Step 1. Dial *292#. Step 2. Select option 1. Register with Zabu. Step 3. Enter your full names. Step 4. Enter your national identification number. Step 5. Enter your national identification card number. In 24 hours, you will receive an SMS confirming your registration. Congratulations, you are now ready to invest.
Smart 24, driving business.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for staying with us. This is Smart 24 TV, and we drive your business. I'm with Mr. Masembe from the Uganda Revenue Authority, and we are trying to break down some of the myths that you know about your tax obligations and paying your taxes and your tax rights, the rights you have as a taxpayer. We've, of course, in the first session discussed widely about what the tax is and why the Uganda Revenue Authority definitely does things the way it does, how you can access some of their services, and how they're trying to reach out to you as an individual taxpayer. But in the recent past, Mr. Masembe, we've had contestations on withholding tax in particular, and even other types of taxes, which I would want you to just give a distinction of. Let's start with the withholding tax.
Yes.
Now, as per the traders, they feel like the 6% withholding tax that's being charged is unfair. But according to the Income Tax Act, Section 83, subsection 1, a 15% withholding tax is to be imposed on every non-resident person that derives from a dividend, interest, royalty, rent, natural resource, or management charge from sources in Uganda. But the same act also says that 6% of withholding tax is also to be charged on importation of goods into the country and on receipt of payment made by individual companies to government entities.
Yes.
Now, draw for us the line. Are these different forms of withholding tax, or is there one sort of withholding tax? And isn't there double payment, so to say, for these withholding taxes?
Thank you, Anthony. For us to understand withholding tax, we need to appreciate all the other taxes there are, and maybe we can appreciate it via elimination. Withholding tax is a form of income tax, because first, your business makes income, and if it makes income, it ought to pay tax. Okay? But withholding tax is a form of tax that is picked off a payment that is due to you, and it is remitted to Uganda Revenue Authority. For example, the simplest and most prevalent form of withholding tax is pay as you earn. You agree as a staff that you will be paid a salary of 1 million. But as you are receiving the salary, you get to realize that 202,000 has been knocked off as pay as you earn. Your employer has withheld it and is taking it to URA. Your salary is your income, but someone is withholding 200,000 from it and is taking it to the URA. Okay? So that is withholding, because they are not giving you the entire amount, they are withholding a bit of it. So that is on salary. You had your salary, which is your income, but your employer is withholding a bit of it and remitting it to URA. It is withholding. Now that is a form of tax. Now withholding can also manifest itself on persons who make goods or service supplies to particular persons, to government or to other designated persons, where these goods or services, the supply is above 1 million shillings. The payment, maybe it is 10 million shillings, maybe it's, 10 million shillings. Then there is 6%, the one you alluded to in your quote of the law. And so it is 6%, and it is designated as such. So when you are a supplier of what, Anthony, in a side gig, if you're a supplier of food to a government hospital, to a school, maybe to Makerere University, and you agree with the entity that these items, the food I'm supplying you or the stationery I'm supplying you is 10 million shillings, then they are required to withhold 6% of that. Is that 600,000? So they will, you as a supplier, whereas you agreed that the university or the government entity or the person you're supplying will pay you 10 million shillings. Instead, they will give you 9.4 million shillings. They will take the other 600,000 to URA, and it is your tax. So ideally, even before the year ends, you've already paid 600,000 to the URA. But let's take note. Whatever someone withholds from you, you should be able to get a tax credit certificate from the URA website. If you're not able, if they are not able to generate it for you, or you're not able to generate it for yourself, then you need to raise a red flag to the URA. So withholding tax is a form of tax like in the cases that I've explained. You could be supplying professional services or management services. You could be dealing in mobile money. You could be dealing in you could be dealing as an insurance or a bank agent. There could be many. You could be receiving interest or dividends as an investor in such a portfolio. In all those cases, there is withholding tax that will be made off the payment that is coming to you. In some cases, it is a final tax, like on interest and dividends. It is a final tax, meaning you cannot use it to reduce your tax burden or your tax payable, tax liability on other issues or within that particular business. But in many other cases, it is not a final tax. Now, like you noted, on persons like non-residents, maybe a comedian flies in from Nigeria, comes into Uganda and performs. The events promoter, the organizer of that particular, and the person who has organized to bring this entertainer into the country is expected to withhold and pay 15% of whichever amount they have agreed on.
That's 100 million. That means you're going to take off 15
million
and remit to URA.
To URA.
But this guy is a visitor. I thought
yes,
he would
but
be
the
much
person,
more hospitable.
Thank you. Thank you. And I think when our performers go to other countries, they pay more. Our local talent, if they go out, they pay more. And the concept of income tax is that you pay tax where you earn the money. So if you make money
in Uganda,
yes,
you must leave some money.
Exactly.
In Uganda. You don't carry the whole sum.
Not at all.
Back to Nigeria.
Yes, and it is the rationale for the introduction of, you heard of the digital services tax for these multinationals that have digital platforms where Ugandans pay for those services in Uganda. Yes, when you make money from Ugandans for services enjoyed in Uganda, it means that income has been earned in Uganda. So the tax must be paid in Uganda. That is the fairness, and it's an internationally accepted and agreed on and appreciated principle that tax or income should be taxed where it has been sourced or earned. And basically that is it. But beyond withholding tax, we have other taxes, like value-added tax on items on which value has been added.
Which means literally everything that we sell. Because we have, okay, I think mainly if you talk about anything we are processing,
yes,
we're adding value. So if we have added any value to it, we have VAT paid.
Yes, ideally you would say, but the condition is the value added on that particular item should be above 5% of the original value. So if the item has been worth 100 shillings, then it should be, after adding that value, it should be more than 105 shillings upwards. So the value needs to be above that. And there are exclusions, because value-added tax, whereas it is on value added to items, there are exclusions, and so certain items have been exempted, like solar items, like financial services, like health services, like education services, like unimproved land. Items like those have been exempted from value-added tax because you do not want to charge tax on them for the items identified considered at times basic or necessary to resuscitate or to push the growth of particular sectors. Items like medicines, human medicines, educational materials actually have a zero rate of VAT, still to give them the advantage of being cheap for those who intend to use them. Medicines and education items, among a few other things, or like exports. The intention is to push their uptake
and
or
consumption.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
We've talked about the income tax.
Yes.
So income tax is the bigger bracket.
It's the bigger.
And then you have under it, we have withholding tax.
We've looked at withholding tax, the pay as you earn.
VAT, is that under still?
No, value-added tax is completely different. But then,
segment,
yes, when we look at income tax broadly, there is what we call individual income tax. You are a landlord. You have your rental premises that you let out to other people, and every month they pay you certain rents. And so from the income that you earn from these particular items, you're expected to pay rental income tax. In another case is where you are maybe a company, but still you own this property. Or you have a business and it's a company running a business. You will pay corporate income tax on the profits that you make, as the case is for an individual who has a business, who would be expected to pay tax on the profits that they make. So we have personal income tax, and then we have corporate income tax. It is basically tax on profits. The other scenario is for small businesses. Operators of businesses could be a company or it could be an individual. And in their set of circumstances, their sales are between 10 to 150 million. So if the sales are between 10 to 150 million and they are not professionals or providers of public entertainment or utility services, then they can be considered to be presumptive. It is a tax payable, a form of income tax paid on sales, not profits, but sales that are between 10 to 150 million. If the sales are below 10 million, there is no tax for this particular person that is in a year. So that is the breakdown of income taxes. For the other taxes that we try talking about, the value added tax, that is on value added, as earlier noted. The local excise duty, it is tax on specific items manufactured in the country or imported.
Is that the same as local service tax?
No.
It's not.
Local service tax is different. Excise duty, which is local excise duty, is collected by the URA on particular items imported or manufactured into the country. Okay? And for this, the easier way for you to look at them has been with the introduction of the digital tax stamps or the digital tracking solution. Yes.
I've seen that, especially on our drinks.
Exactly,
very,
yes.
Very now prominent.
Yes.
I have a friend, when you visit him, he has so many of those
Of
stamps.
those,
He's a consumer.
Very nice guy there, I need to say. Yes, it is, with that digital tax stamp one, it is proof that the item has paid tax, has
That's
been declared
local
for
service,
tax.
local
Excise duty. Yes. And then the item is up to the standard of items accepted by the UNBS. So when you see such a drink or such a, it could be cement, it could be sugar, it could be cooking oil, it could be a beverage, alcoholic or non-alcoholic, alcoholic, anything of the kind, just take, because it has been declared for taxes. That is one. And two, it is up to the standard that has been set by the UNBS. So those are the items that we are looking at, and those are the taxes that we basically have. The other is the gaming tax. The gaming tax. Yes, for persons who are involving in themselves in games of chance. Okay, if you're in games of chance, we have that gaming tax, which is paid. This is declared weekly. By Wednesday, we expect it to be declared. And then we have scenarios, weekly, then there is the monthly, and then at the end of the year, the profits made by those gaming firms. The other taxes relate to international transactions. Okay, the customs import duty. Then there is the VAT at importation, the value added tax at importation. Then we have the withholding tax at importation. You talked about that when you're making the other introduction. That withholding tax at importation is usually charged for scenarios where it is assumed the income that you are using to import the items never paid tax. So it is. And in certain circumstances, you can apply or use it as a credit for maybe as an individual. Then we have scenarios of, we have the infrastructure levy, we have the environmental levy that is charged on items that are imported, depending on its categorization. So those are for import. And even for particular items that are being imported, like we noted, there is some local excise duty. Or like if you're importing wines and so on coming into the country, there will be excise duty that you would have to pay. So in brief, those are the various tax heads that we have. But to break down each would require us to go into some more time. But I think that breakdown makes it clear a bit for us on what is paid where and at what rate.
And thank you especially for the withholding tax, which has been a little bit contentious with the traders there. Now, finally, Mr. Masembe, if you could tell us about the tax obligations and rights taxpayers have under the Uganda Revenue Authority jurisdiction?
Now, the first of the many important things that a taxpayer needs to appreciate or feel as they are interacting with the taxman is fairness. Is fairness. When you are engaging with the taxman, it is very important that you feel that you have been treated fairly. But the fairness in the tax system as we have it is first given by you. You serve yourself the fairness within the tax system by declaring what you earned, so you pay the tax that is due to you. If you don't do that, then you are denying yourself that right, and you're telling URA, yes, to assess you and declare for you the tax that you need to pay, which can be not fair to you. The second is equity, to be treated like the other person. If the URA is applying the tax law, okay, does it apply it the same way to you, the way it applied it on Michael? I think that is something that we need to really look out for when we are engaging with the taxman. The third thing is confidentiality and secrecy. You have a right to secrecy about any of your tax matters that you could have declared to the taxman. Not for you to tell URA secrets of your business and you find them making news headlines on the next day. So that is a very, very important thing. Secrecy and confidentiality. Then the right to objections and appeals. You have a right to say no or to say I disagree with URA under any circumstances or on any decisions that have been made by the Uganda Revenue Authority to the URA officers, in the Tax Appeals Tribunal, and in the courts of the land. You have those rights. The other is a right to refunds. Some people, when they pay in excess of the tax they owed, they were supposed to pay, instead of claiming for their refund, they would rather take it as a loss. With the fear that to ask URA for a tax refund is as impossible as squeezing water out of a rock.
That's true.
Okay? So you find someone telling you, if it is about a refund, maybe let me leave it as a credit that will accumulate over and over. But we encourage taxpayers, and we would like to re-emphasize that the refunds that are due to you are actually yours, and you need to claim for them from the Uganda Revenue Authority, because it is that refund that you can use to plow back into your business to get into better steps. Maybe the other is accountability to you. You have a right to be updated on what has happened within your tax account, or on your tax ledger, or on your tax record. When you pay tax, you have a right to be updated that, dear Anthony, URA has received this amount of money from you. Dear Anthony, URA has maybe sent you this and this and this. So that accountability to you is a right that you have. Prior notice. URA should not just ambush you. Okay? You have a right to be informed that we will be coming in 7 days. Please organize your records. And we are coming to, maybe if it is an investigation issue and you have proven that you are deliberately committing tax offenses, you may not be warned. But where it is an audit, it is an inspection, maybe visit or something, you have a right to prior notice, and we will be giving you that notice. Explanations for decisions taken.
There must be someone to tell you what's happening.
Yeah. When I give you an assessment as a URA officer, I must be able to explain to you that I'm asking you to pay 10 million. because you made sales of 60 million, and when I compute tax this one, this way, it leads me to this. So it is very, very important, and it is your right that the decisions that the taxman makes are explained to you. And these are rights that our taxpayers usually may not be aware of, but they must be aware of if they are to sustain themselves in business. Otherwise, they may be vulnerable to a lot of malpractice from intermediaries and from some officers who may not be practicing as it is expected of them. Yes.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Masembe, for that very beautiful breakdown. Maybe you can just say your last parting shots to our viewers in as far as whatever we've discussed is concerned.
Thank you very much. I'm actually going to summarize my parting shots in the obligations. One, please register. Register for your taxes. We have, today is 19th?
Yes.
Today is 18th. Yes, today is 18th. We have barely 11 days to the end of September, and at this time as individuals you need to be filing your returns, the first provisional return. So let's file that first provisional return, let us register for taxes, let's update our records, let us keep records, let us pay any tax due. We are in the taxpayer appreciation season, and as you are aware, we're celebrating every taxpayer who is doing all they can, who is doing everything in their effort to meet their obligations. And we want to celebrate you for your commitment to meeting your tax obligations. I would like to thank you, developing Uganda together.
Thank you so much, Mr. Masembe. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Now you know the rights you have as a taxpayer, that you ought to have an explanation as to why are they levying these taxes. You can ask these questions, be comfortable, and reach out to URA as much as you can for all your tax needs. That's it from us tonight. My name is Anthony. Once again, we shall catch you next week, same time, same place. Bye for now.
Smart 24, driving business.